There. Okay, so as you can see, everyone, there are the in-person participants who are putting their names on board. We're just getting ready. Welcome to Short History of the World, our final class. And I'm a little bit under the weather today. I have a mask on, but you should be able to hear me clearly. And I'm always excited to be in this part of the semester when we have the final assignments coming in and presentations being made, and we have a really a thorough and detailed presentation that Roxalana is about to present to you, and she's going to explain something about an event in the 20th century that is not that much different from the genocides that we have referred to already, including the Holocaust. But I want just to remind you, as she will in this, in terms of a trigger warning, that she's going to be presenting things today about the history of Ukraine, and that will really help you to understand why the Ukrainians right now are fighting so hard to hold on to their country in the face of the aggressive actions by the Russian leader, Vladimir Putin. And she's going to walk you through an event that will help you to understand just how deep this situation goes in the history between Ukraine and Russia. You're going to understand what makes Ukraine such a thriving, great, independent nation. You're going to understand how the history of its resistance is not just because of what they're doing now and in the figure of their president Zelensky, but it goes back to actually another figure in Russian history that I touched on in the 20th century, who actually, by the way, killed more people than Hitler ever did. And that's Joseph Stalin. And Joseph Stalin, as Roxalana is going to help you to understand, coordinated an attempted extermination of the Ukrainian people, just in the way that Hitler tried to do it with the Jews. So this whole force in our story, the 20th century, in which diabolical, cruel, probably mentally unstable, deeply tyrants use technology and their power to try and carry out the liquidation of entire cultures, is a huge problem for humanity. And just be aware that as Roxalana walks you through this, it is her view, I believe, and also the view of this classroom, that the more we can present to all of you about the truth of what has taken place in history, as dark as it is, the smarter you're all going to be. And it may be that in your previous history lessons in schools and elsewhere, you've received a fairly sanitized or limited or restricted view of what has actually taken place in the world. And I have to tell you, just I'll speak for a couple more minutes and then we're going to start. Okay, Roxalana? I say this coming in today, very inspired and very excited by the quality of the final assignments that I'm seeing come in from students this semester. Even students have asked for extensions. I know that that means that they are using that wisely. Echoing your voice? What is that, Shamim? My voice is, just a second. Do you want to jump on your microphone? What's happening to my voice? Is it just my voice or is it the tech? What is it, Shamim? Can you tell us? Let's see. Okay, hold on. Is that okay? Is everything good? You should be hearing me clearly. echoing. Okay, well, that's voice has been turned off. Hold on a second. Hold on a second. That doesn't make sense. I'm trying to. Okay, voice is better. Okay, good. I'm just, walking into this space. There's so much complexity here. The college has done their best to provide us with good tech, but it's still not good enough. So I have to do a lot of creative work in making the wiring work. But that's good. Shamim, everything is clear now? And yes, we're good? No, we're not. Okay. So Shamim, can you jump on your, who else? Okay, so I think it's you, Shamim. Excuse me, my voice. Jacqueline Reed, no issues for you. The sound is clear. Is that good? So let's just determine. I have to do a little troubleshoot on the fly here. The tech's got to work. Jacqueline Reed, can you tell us? Yes, good, clear, and
Not yet. I
okay.
can understand.
It's you. You know what, Shamim? It's you, not me, because Jacqueline is saying it's good. So I'm just going to have to keep going, okay, with this. And can you hear at least? Okay, good. Thanks, Shamim. So let me just conclude by saying that the quality of the work that's coming in from all of you is really inspiring for me, because it makes me think that you're really responding well to the material. And I've seen some outstanding assignments coming in, and I'm looking at some of the people who've submitted them already. And so clearly, talking about things that are difficult is exactly what you want. You want to know a better, deeper, more real truth about the human story. And as some have said in their assignments, because you understand how this relates to our future and your future. As one student writing about the paradox of progress, for example, said that she had never had a history class or a class that enabled her to take historical events and then understand that this is what our future is about. There are things that we've been exploring in this class that are speaking to the dilemmas of our future, your future. And so that is exactly intended. And for me to see you reflecting on these things gives me so much hope that your generation is ready to deal and open your mind to this bigger story. And it gives me hope that this format I'm developing here is working too, because it ensures you have all the resources for you, recordings and other things to reflect on things. So students have told me they'll watch the recordings again, they'll check things. So that's great. For other students, finally, I will say those who've clearly used ChatGPT or AI, you're going to get some bad news. But I've warned you again and again and again this semester about using the machine to do the thinking for you. And it's so obvious that some of you have just simply asked in a prompt to deliver your final assignment to Short History of the World, and you will receive a 0. But you will not receive any kind of report. It will not follow you at Durham College. I'm supposed to put an actual academic alert out for the students that I believe have cheated to that extent. I won't do that this semester. So just know, for the students who are receiving a 0 on their final assignment, it's clearly, and you know exactly why, you have clearly not followed or even listened to what's been going on in the class, and you've defaulted to the worst thing that you can be doing as a human being today, which is you are abdicating your thinking to a machine. Why you did that? I understand how desperate some of the students are right now in the workload that they have, but you're not 10 years old. You're grown-ups. And I'm afraid you're just going to have to learn the hard way for those of you who have done this. Looking at the students here in the class right now, none of you have done this that I'm looking at right now. Quite the opposite. Okay. And for those of you online as well, I don't see anybody, but I have over 200 students, and there are many, many students who are out there distantly, remotely, who, for one reason or another, just have relied on ChatGPT to be their best friend. So that's all I wanted to say by way of starting. Thank you all for such great work. For those of you who have been handing in the great work, I think you're going to see right now with Roxalana, somebody who has been doing very good work through the semester and now has taken on such an important topic that she would like to share with all of you. Do you want to come up and get ready? Grab a microphone. I don't want to hand this to you in case my pathogens or my little germs fly off the microphone to you. And then we will go to Shamim's presentation. She's going to give it remotely on mental health, and it's excellent. And then we're going to conclude. Okay. So we'll have discussions as well about Roxalana and about Shamim, and maybe we'll even have time to help Olive a little bit with some ideas. But let's make sure your microphone's on. Okay.
Okay.
And you can, if you want to switch, just
Okay.
click the down. Do you want to just test it for a second and see?
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Come on in. Grab a seat on the couch so Roxalana can see you nice and clearly. I'm going to stop this over here so it doesn't distract the students. Okay. Oh, good. We can. Oh, let's just stop it on a picture of, I don't know what planet that is or which moon that is, but there we go. Okay. That's just to remind us that as nasty as this is going to get, there's a big picture here. It's the planet story, and we're just part of a much smaller evolutionary story. So, okay, Roxalana, go ahead.
So hi, I'm Roxalana. Today I'm going to do a presentation on the Holodomor, which loosely translated to extermination by hunger. So first, I'm going to start with a bit of context before the actual event. Then I'll go into the event and what happened, and then I'm going to talk about the lasting impact that it still has. Before I begin, I do just want to start with a little trigger warning. There's going to be like discussion of famine, hunger, mass killings, and death, including photos. So if you're uncomfortable with any of that, feel free to step out. But I do think that this is really important to be aware of and to know. So the Holodomor happened in Ukraine. And so, just a quick overall history. Before World War I, Ukraine was governed independently by a group called the Cossacks. And so, the Cossacks were initially a group of men who protected the Ukrainian people from the Tatars. And the Tatars were from southern Ukraine, which is now known as Crimea, which has technically been annexed to Russia, but it is still Ukraine. And they were known to take Ukrainians and take them down to Crimea and use them as slaves. So the Cossacks protected the Ukrainians from that. And their military skill quickly won them many battles between those who were trying to take Ukrainian territory, such as the Tatars, but also the Ottoman, Turkish, and the Polish tried to take Ukrainian territory as well. So the Cossacks kind of protected Ukraine and protected the Ukrainian people. And the people and the citizens began to see the Cossacks kind of as their leaders or protectors, and if you will, like their father figures. And they were kind of seen as the rulers of Ukraine. And so then in 1917, we had the Russian Revolution. So on a map, obviously, Russia is right next to Ukraine. And what happened during the Russian Revolution, just really quickly, is that the royal family of Russia was killed, and then the group, the Bolsheviks, came to power. Vladimir Lenin was the leader of the Bolsheviks, and he was the one who came to power in Russia and became their leader. Joseph Stalin was his right-hand man. And so then they established the USSR, which is also known as the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics. The territories that were included were Russia, Belarus, Ukraine, and a whole bunch of others that are on this map here. And so it quickly grew to over 15 territories. And it's huge, clearly. Russia is the largest country in the world. And then they have all these other countries that they're still governing, that they were governing. And then to get into Joseph Stalin and who he was from Georgia. He was born in 1878. His father was an alcoholic and he regularly beat his family. And then his father was eventually actually exiled from the village. So Joseph Stalin really didn't grow up with a father figure. His mother wanted him to become a priest, so he attended a seminary. But his faith in God kind of wavered because he started reading Marx and Darwin. At 20, he left the seminary and he became a full time Marxist political activist. He was then recognized by Lenin as a member of the Central Committee of the Bolshevik Party. And so then 5 years after the Bolsheviks seized power, Lenin suffered a stroke and died. And so that's when Stalin became the leader from 1924 onto his death in 1953. Officially, Stalin died from a heart attack. However, it is implied, and there's lots of evidence pointing to poison. And also, a fun fact, well, not that fun, but his last name wasn't Stalin. He changed his last name because Stalin in Russia means steel, and that's why in Russian means steel, and that's why he's known as the Man of Steel. And so now to the Holodomor. It was a man-made famine that lasted from the winter of 1932 to the spring of 1933, and it has widely been recognized as a genocide. So, in 1929, Stalin decided to collectivize all the agriculture in Ukraine. So this was kind of the communist idea of everybody owns everything. So he decided to collectivize all the agriculture because Ukraine is very well known for its like wheat and its farming. They're known as the breadbasket of Europe. And so then the Communist Party forced Ukrainians to relinquish their land and personal property again to feed the communist um, work, I guess. So this caused a drop in food production and it sparked a series of rebellions throughout Ukraine. And this really worried Stalin because these regions they had previously fought against the Red Army, which was the Russian army during the Russian Civil War. And so he wanted everybody to follow him, follow his leadership, and not question anything he did, really. And so, because he was so nervous about that, the Soviet Communist Party made a series of irreversible decisions. And so, a blacklist was created that prevented farms, villages, and entire towns from receiving food. And then the famine continued to deepen and aid was not provided. Throughout the winter, the Russian police would constantly ransack Ukrainian homes, taking anything edible, even including your pets. And then just a quote here I have hunger and fear drove these actions, but they were reinforced by more than a decade of hateful and conspiratorial rhetoric emanating from the highest levels of the Kremlin. So basically, Russia kind of went and they said, okay, you actually, all the food you're making, that's going to belong to us. Anything you have that's edible, going to belong to us. So clearly, they didn't have anything to eat. So again, this left Ukrainians with almost no food. Starvation was rampant across the country, and it soon became quite normal to just be walking down the street, and you would kind of just see bodies walking down the street. These visits from the Soviet officers were very frequent, and there were actually even some accounts of cannibalism as well. I don't know if you can tell, but I'm Ukrainian, and my grandmother was alive during this. She was about, I think, like 5, 10-ish, and she actually said that one time she saw one of her neighbors eating one of their children because they had no food. And so mass graves were dug to keep up with the rising number of bodies, and there are still bones and remnants being found to this day. And
It's
then,
good you give the trigger warning for those that and I just want to stop for a second because this is excellent. And also you're seeing graphic things on a big board, almost like a movie screen here. So I just want to make sure, are you okay to see? These are, unfortunately, this is true. This is true. These things happen. And they're still happening to some extent. So if it's really difficult, you might want to get up and not look, but listen, okay? Stay and listen because it's important information.
so approximately 10 million Ukrainian people were killed in this famine, either like inadvertently or specifically. And just to put that into perspective, around 6 million Jewish people were killed in World War II over 6 years. And this is 10 million people in one winter. So imagine how much food had to be taken, how aggressive Russia had to be to do this. And the death rate among children was 50%. So 50% of like children born would die. And then 4.3 million tons of grain was taken from Ukraine, and so that's enough to feed around 12 million people for an entire year. That's more than all the people that they killed. And so during the same time, the USSR worked to rid the world of all Ukrainian culture. They stopped teaching Ukrainian in schools and they began teaching Russian. And then popular Ukrainian customs were also outlawed. And another real world example, I spent a semester at U of T and I took like a Ukrainian language course because I know how to speak Ukrainian, but I wanted to improve my own skill. And the teacher there, she was from Ukraine. And so when I would talk to her, a lot of my Ukrainian was different than her Ukrainian because we have old Ukrainian and new Ukrainian. So we had old Ukrainian, which was before this, before the USSR, kind of before World War II, around then too, when my grandparents were growing up. And so they came over to Canada and they taught their children the old Ukrainian, and then I was taught that Ukrainian. But then my teacher at U of T, she was born like whenever in the 70s, and she grew up with the new Ukrainian. So there's that distinction and that difference in the language because a lot of her words were a lot more Russian, I'd say. And yeah, it's just kind of crazy the way that it can work like that. And then afterwards, Ukraine became a post-genocidal society. People would fear everything, frankly. And then historian James Mace said that he believes that the famine maimed Ukraine to such an extent that it created a discontinuity in the normal development of the Ukrainian people to this day. And the USSR refused to acknowledge that the Holodomor was a genocide or that it was even real. And it was actually impossible and outlawed to speak about the genocide up until the 1980s. And yeah, that's it. Thank you. Oh, yeah. Does anybody have any questions? They could probably try, but the Russians were very similar in to the Germans in the fact that they tried to get rid of all information that anything that they did bad existed. So, yeah.
Let's pass it. We can pass the microphone around a little bit and get some reaction to this. Okay, so make sure, and it's important to give your feedback as well to Roxalana, and whatever you want to say about this, even if you have a question and you don't understand, please ask it, because for me, for a student to be able to teach you about these things, particularly from her own culture, is very experiential. You're getting it straight from a person who's been through. And you heard what her grandmother had to say, what her grandmother had been through. This is firsthand eyewitness accounts. Okay, so Nuso, go ahead, just turn that on and yeah, good, great.
I have a question. Like the fights we're talking about is still up to today, right? Putin wants to like add
Ukraine, yeah.
his own. So my problem here is that like, what is it exactly? Is it because Ukraine has more food, or just I don't know? Yeah.
Good question. Why has Vladimir Putin invaded Ukraine, and why is he trying to defeat Ukraine? It's 4 years of war now. 4 years almost, and they're fighting Ukraine. He thought Putin he would win in a few days, and he thought he was going to kill Zelensky quickly, but he got a rude awakening at the airport in around Kyiv. But anyway, go ahead.
I think it's greed, and I think Putin is a narcissist who wants everything and wants to gain. And honestly, I think he's a lot like Hitler in the way that he wants to rule the world. He wants a whole world under his power. He wants everybody to submit to what he wants. So I think Ukraine was there, and it was kind of, I guess, easy for him. And then I think his plan was get Ukraine, get Poland, get the rest of the world.
But ask anything you like, okay? Because we're talking about some very important
That's just my
events.
opinion.
Yeah.
Again, I see the new president and like, to me, I don't feel like he's like doing anything significant.
He's,
The new guy, Zelensky, like the president they have now, like the president of Ukraine.
yes, Zelensky.
Yeah, I'm
Yes.
trying to say like, I see him as like, he's not like really doing anything like since he has been there. I don't know how long he has been elected.
Yes.
I've not seen any significant thing he has done for the country regarding this war. Yeah. So I don't know if you have anything to say about that, or like, do you guys believe in him?
I do. I like him. He seems like a good guy. I mean, he stopped them from taking over in 3 days.
Hmm.
That was Russ's goal. He said, "I'm gonna take over in 3 days, get them all in," and he stopped that. It's still 4 years. It's sad that it's still going on, but I'm happy that it's still going on in the sense that there still is a Ukraine. I think. And I think he's very he's really boosted the morale of the Ukrainian people, I believe, as well. And just the way that he's refusing to back down. He's staying in Ukraine. He's staying in the capital. He was offered a jet to leave.
That's right.
The US were like, "Hey, we have this jet. You can leave." And he said, "No, I'm staying with my people. I'm going to do what I can."
Yeah. And he's put together a global coalition of countries to resist this kind of aggression. But anyways, that we don't have to have a long conversation about these things, but it's important that you ask Roxanne and she can answer. So Connor, please go ahead. Yes, good.
Okay.
It's working.
I didn't know that there was like a new or old like Ukrainian. Like I had no idea that. I'm not educated. I didn't even know Ukrainian was a language. In all fairness, like, can you give like any like specific examples like between like old and new like sayings maybe?
Yeah. One of them that I remember learning is numbers. 90 in like old Ukrainian is 90, and 90 in new Ukrainian is I actually don't remember.
I'm not sure. Yeah.
But it is
Sweet.
different. And there's also like colors as well. And I know like one thing that I noticed that she did is she used a I don't know how to like say like a Russian tone, I guess, for the word dress. She said sukonku, whereas I would say just robe, like robe. So it's just kind of small things like that that you notice. Or sometimes, often, even if you go to Ukraine now, if you say yes in Ukrainian, that's tak, but yes in Russian is da, and you find a lot of Ukrainians coming over now saying da and not tak.
Mhm.
So it's just small things like that that you notice.
What would you like to know why Roxalana feels Ukrainian and not anything else? Would you like to know the answer to that, Connor? Like she's standing in front of you right now and saying, "I'm Ukrainian," and Russia, Vladimir Putin, who has openly expressed his admiration for Joseph Stalin. Let's be clear about this, and has killed many of his opponents one way or the other, whether it's been shooting them, running them off the road, throwing acid at them. I mean, this has been well documented. He has no enemies anymore. They've all been killed. Now, he has said Ukrainians are not really Ukrainian. They're Russian. So who is this woman, Roxalana, saying she's Ukrainian? She's Russian. Can you address that so people understand the absurdity, the idiocy of, and I should not let my opinions get in the way here, but let's just understand, if Vladimir Putin was standing for, he would say, she doesn't know what she's talking about. She's Russian, really. Can you address that?
I don't really know. I guess look at a map. Or
Yeah, look at a map. Okay.
I don't know. That's like saying Canadians are American because they're side by side and they share the same continent.
And yet,
Like
you feel Canadian.
exactly.
Yeah.
Speak a different language, have a different culture, different name. Yeah.
And haven't we seen this force before in the conquest? You think about this, right? You know, we've seen this play out in history. How do we ensure going forward it won't play out again? That's a big question. But anyways, let's keep Avery Rose, okay? Go ahead.
Well, first I'd like to say thank you for talking about this. I know you probably saw that it was difficult for me to watch, but I I never heard of this before, and which, which is surprising considering the big impact that it's had on history. So I know it was difficult, but thank you for bringing it up. Uh, just out of curiosity, that photo on the slide, is that an actual statue that's in Ukraine?
Mm.
'Cause it looks almost like a memorial statue as well.
Yeah, it's the National like Holodomor Memorial in Kiev. Yeah. So often like that photo will be
Yeah.
used, and she's holding, I don't know if you can see the actual statue, she's holding a piece of wheat as well. Because wheat is very symbolic in Ukraine, like I said. They're known as the breadbasket of Europe. And like the Ukrainian flag right up there, the blue represents the sky, and then the yellow represents wheat fields and red. So
Yeah,
yeah.
I actually really like installments like this, and like memorial statues or art pieces put out in the public domain as reminders of both great events, like historical moments, or great tragedies that, while it's difficult to
Yeah.
hear about, we need to remember. Otherwise, if we forget about it. I I'm scared to think what would happen.
Well, it's a really good, Avery Rose is a very good point because I'll tell you something. I live in High Park, Toronto, with my wife, and High Park has a lot of Ukrainians there. And often when we go into High Park and we walk, there's a statue there of a woman, a Ukrainian, at the beginning of the 20th century. Her name is or was Lesia Ukrainka. Lesia Ukrainka. She was a writer and a poet, Ukrainian, and that statue in High Park is an inscription at the bottom of something she said about freedom, because she understood when she was fighting against the Russian at the time, the Tsar. The Russians have a long history that predates Putin and Stalin, going back, of how brutally they've treated Ukrainians, and there have been people who've resisted that. And here was this woman in the beginning of the 20th century, a woman no less, at a time when women didn't even have voting rights, but she was fighting. And here's what she said about freedom, which is interesting. She said, "Freedom uh, freedom gained is freedom true. Freedom given is a captive's doom. Freedom gained is freedom true. Freedom given is a captive's doom." Think about that idea of a country coming in and forcing their idea of freedom on another country. And Vladimir Putin has even said something like, the Ukrainians will be more free and they'll be joining the Russian idea of freedom. And China says this now around Taiwan too, and the other countries. They'll be more free. So people may fall. Hitler even thought, we'll free the Germans from oppression from the world. But that's freedom given, ordered, forced. But freedom gained, when you fight for your own freedom and you believe in it and you're not forced into it, is real freedom.
Yeah.
Not the type where you're forced into somebody else's idea of freedom. Isn't that a nice line? Freedom gained is freedom true. Freedom given is a captive's doom. And every time I walk by Lesia Ukraine, I think that was her real name, but she might have.
I'll try remembering
Yeah.
that, but it feels like just from hearing what you said, it sounds like we're not learning. It's like I know you said once that events are destined to happen again. It but how we learn from the past is how we react and
Only humans make mistakes, but there's no
it just
inevitability.
feels like we're not learning. Like it's just like, seriously, weren't we just here before? Like
Yeah.
and just a slight tangent off. Sorry, but just what you were saying about the Romanovs,
Yes.
like I'm not condoning what they've done, but the way they were taken out, seriously,
They
like
were
you're
all killed. They were all killed by the
like you're
communists
not
into a
like
basement. They're just all shot.
like
Tsar and
it's not it's like they weren't. This is just personal opinion, just for everyone listening. So, it from the way I see it, it's you're fighting against people like you're trying to gain your freedom against people who've killed and ruled over you, and yet getting rid of them in this way, you're not proving yourself to be any better. It, like,
Mm.
like it's almost like they're as worse as they were. So it's I don't know. It just makes me feel sorry that it just this never-ending cycle of violence.
it is and it isn't. And I'll give you one example. But you want to address that, and then I'll give you an answer, and then we can move on. But are you? You want to? Okay, I'll just say I don't want you to feel so pessimistic about humanity.
I'm trying not to
But
be.
there's a lot in history that's very painful. However, let's just take one figure that's very famous, and there are others. Nelson Mandela. Now let's think about this for a second. A person, a black man, strapping, intelligent. He'd been a boxer too. He was a great figure. And then he's reduced to being a prisoner of the white minority government in South Africa, who arrests him, puts him in prison, and there he languishes for 28 years. 28 years. As the government in South Africa at the time was called apartheid government. It was a white minority government. The whites ruled the blacks in a very blunt way. So Nelson Mandela is the black. He goes to prison and he survives. Eventually, the white government realizes they have no future in the modern world anymore, and they change. Nelson Mandela is released. Now, he had a choice. He was so famous. He could have easily, Avery Rose, sought revenge. He could have gone to all the farms that were owned by whites in South Africa, and he could have removed all those white people, killed them all, and put the rightful owners, historically, the black people who deserved and should be there. He didn't do that. He actually sought reconciliation so the country could move on as a multiracial society.
Yeah.
And there are others, you can find in history who are remarkable figures. I'm a little falling apart today. My belt was just, jeez. What else is going to fall apart today?
I understand that.
But there are the figures, and these are very brave, forward-looking people who want something better for humanity, and they have to find a way not to forgive. It's not about forgiveness. It's just about somehow moving on. It's very difficult.
Yeah, like I try to, like I'm sorry if I am coming across as pessimistic. I really am trying to see the good in people and things. Like that's the kind of person that I am. I don't like being constantly told of all this bloodshed and violence. Like I try to remember that in all this darkness and
Yes.
there is still hope and light. It gets hard when that's all you're fed through the media and such. But yeah, I tried to think on the positive side.
Well, also we've had this discussion before about the rage bait and how you may be a little bit susceptible to the rage bait out there that is trying to make you angry and sad about society. But listen, let's stop, okay? This is about Roxalana. And is there anything else that you would like to say before we give her a good, round of applause and let her sit and continue to reflect deeply about these things? Olive? Yeah, let's get a microphone over here, okay? Do you want to the microphone and so I don't pass any germ around? Yep.
I would like to say thank you for bringing this up, and I really hope that your country is able to eventually pull through this and recover.
Thanks, Olive. Okay, well, why don't we, on that, that's a good note. Kevin, you want to add? Good. Go ahead, and then we're going to go to Shamim, and then we'll conclude. Great.
I'm a 1/4 Ukrainian. I'm related to the Ukrainians in northern Alberta, which is one of the largest diaspora communities of Ukrainians. I knew about some of this, but not all of it. So thanks for teaching me something.
You're welcome. And
Yeah,
they're in
exactly.
Alberta because of the plains.
Yeah.
Because the farmland, they're used to farming.
Yeah, huge Ukrainian population. As a matter of fact, there's a brilliant Canadian Ukrainian Rhodes Scholar who ran for prime minister recently and was the one responsible for bringing down Justin Trudeau.
Okay.
Her name is Chrystia Freeland. Did you know the deputy prime minister for a long time and Chrystia Freeland? You know, the one who refused to. She's Ukrainian. She's long-time Rhodes Scholar, Oxford University, and now, she's really. So who's that?
microphone's working.
Okay, so we gotta stop and move on. I want to get you guys out of here early, okay, today. So, excellent. Thank you very much. Okay.
Is this microphone working for me?
What's that, Kevin? Yeah, go ahead.
Is this microphone working now?
Should be. Let's see. Okay. Well, we'll see.
Swallow it hard enough.
Shamim, do you want to come on your microphone now and let's get this going, okay? And make sure that you can deliver yours. So,
Okay, sure.
excellent. Great. So Shamim is going to present this. And for all of you, hold on a second. I'm going to help her with this by doing this. Okay, so here we go. Let me just say, by way of setting the bigger picture here, just for a minute, as briefly as I can, there is no topic today that perhaps is more discussed among students, college and university students, families in the media than mental health. And, well, you should ask yourselves, why are we talking about it so much? And I think Shamim is going to help you to understand this. She's put together a very detailed presentation about it. But let's just say to what Avery Rose has expressed, which I think is very helpful for us to think about. The darkness and the cruelty and the intolerance and the war and the continuing conflicts in the human story are very real. However, as Alfred North Whitehead did say, and I've said this to you before, there is this slow sunrise happening in civilization. It's slow, but it's happening. Hans Rosling put his finger on it with his data that I showed you last week. Well, here's one more example. Even just a generation ago, people would not talk about mental health in this way. The breaking of stigma. Think about this. The breaking of stigma. This is a huge sign of progress, in my estimation. Now, let me just make sure. Oh, yeah, that's Olive in the live chat. Good. Keep going, okay? Good. I'm not going to respond afterwards. So for those of you who have maybe found some of the material that we've covered around genocide and omnicide in the 20th century and the diabolical human beings that have emerged in this story, who take the idea of the God King and take it much further into Heil Hitler and, Heil the leader. And don't ever forget how these tyrants use technology. Hitler used radio in huge ways, just the way Donald Trump has used social media. So, that's bad. And we know that. But then here we go. mental health. I don't need to say to any one of you, you know exactly what we're all talking about because every single one of you has your own small or big struggle with mental health. It's absolutely normal. It's part of being human. But now we actually bring it out of the darkness, bring it out of the closet, bring it out of the shadows, and we present it to each other and say, let's talk about this and understand this. What a remarkable step for humanity to be able to do this in such a way that we have students now constantly doing presentations on these things. To me, it's great. So Shamim, please let me know when you'd like the slide to be changed, but I'm ready.
Okay.
So the floor is yours, okay?
Okay, sure. Hello, Professor and my classmates. My name is Shamim Pathan, and I'm going to give the presentation on mental health. How many of you ever feel stress, overwhelmed, or disconnected? That's a mental health, something that touches every single of us.
At some point. Yeah. Go ahead. Yeah, good.
Change the slides. Let's talk about this. Just now, Professor said, let's explore mental health, not just as a clinical concept, but as a deeply human experience with complex history. Change the slide. Okay, let's talk about the mental health. We need to understand what the mental health is. It's not about of the absence of illness, its ability to thrive, to cope with the stress, and to contribute to our communities. It's about feeling capable and connected. That's a mental health. Next slide. You can see the data statistics. These numbers are not just the data. They represent real people around us and communities still healing from the historical injustice. You can see the statistics that illustrate the depth of these roots. Most impacted are indigenous people, and we will see that in the next slide.
Shamim, can I just help you to give the presentation a little more effectively? So, and it will help. Just read out.
Okay, sure.
Loud. Not the mental disorders part, but the points along, so people are clear about this. Because what can often happen with PowerPoints is that people are listening, they're reading, and then there's a kind of a disconnect, and they don't know what to follow. So, you know, tell us what's on the slide first, okay? Just the critical. Go ahead and read that. All right.
Okay, approximately 1 in 5 Canadians experience a mental disorder each year. Younger adults aged to 18 to 35 show the highest prevalence of the mental health concerns. In 2022, this were like 230
Yes.
people, emergency department visit, and the 80,000 hospitalizes for the mental illness in the Canada. And indigenous people experience a disproportionately higher mental health challenges due to the historical and social inequalities.
And it's good to say, and my source is not, you know, some crazy source that nobody trusts. This is Statistics Canada. So this is real data. You need to say that because today people do not trust a lot of what anybody says when it comes to data. So you need to give them a trusted source. So my trusted source is Statistics Canada. Just go ahead and say that, just so they know.
Okay.
Go ahead and say my trusted source is Statistics Canada. Just say it.
My trusted source is Statistical Canada, which is valid source
great.
of the government.
Good. Now they start to listen a little bit more. Oh, okay. This is real. It's not BS. Okay. Am I wrong in saying this? I mean, we're so suspicious of a lot of data. Great. Okay. Do you want me to go to the next slide?
Yes, please.
Okay. Great stuff. Go ahead.
This is the one of the most painful chapter in the Canada's mental health story. It is the impact of the colonization on indigenous people. Forced assimilation, loss of the language and the land, these were not just the policies. They were attacked on the identity and well-being that continue to affect generations. Indigenous people face intergenerational trauma linked to the colonization, residential schools, cultural separation. Colonization resulted in the forced assimilation by banning ceremonies and languages. This severe loss of the connection to identity, community, healing, and worldview. People were separated from their land. This meant losing a traditional skills for the food, medicine, governing themselves. Colonial government replaced indigenous leadership and laws, taking away power and self-control. This experience contributes to the social, economic, and political inequalities. The root causes of the health disparities such as PTSD, depression, substance abuse, and suicide.
So
This is
are
also
the
valid resources.
good? Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Keep going.
Next slide, please.
Sure.
The title of my slide is Legacy of the Pain that continue to the generation and generations. Government funded church run the schools for the indigenous children. Over 150,000 children were taken from the families. Children were punished for speaking their language or acting in their culture. Many children suffered emotional, physical, and sexual abuse. Poor food and care led to many children getting sick and dying. Many live with PTSD, depression, and addiction from their childhood trauma. The trauma and a deep fear of the government systems, like hospitals, got passed on in the families. Perhaps this is one of the darkest example in residential school system. For over centuries, indigenous children were taken from their families. It's so dark. Again, this is also from the very resources which I provide in the last slide of my this PowerPoint presentation. Next slide.
Interesting. Journey of the Disturbed
Journey.
Mind. Go ahead. Yeah. Journey. Very interesting. Go ahead. Yeah,
Journey of disturbed
help
mind.
us understand this. Help us.
Mental illness has not always been understood the way it is today. From ancient Greek to the Middle Ages, people have sought to understand the mind, sometimes compassion, care, and sometimes with cruelty. Ancient civilization viewed the mental health through the spiritual or the supernatural explanation. Ancient Greek introduced early biological views. Hippocrates linked mental illness to imbalance in bodily fluids. Treatment ranged from herbal rituals and psychotherapy. Next slide. The picture of this slide itself says therapy or the torment. Treatments have evolved dramatically. What was once seen as a demonic possession was later treated with the things like trephination. You know what that word means? Drilling holes in the skull. So horrible. Middle Ages, mental illness was often associated with the witchcraft, demonic possession, or the moral failure, and treatment was exorcism, trephination, or the punishment. 17th and 18th centuries. Mental ill people were seen as a sick people, deserve kindness, structure, and a fresh air. Not beasts to be chained. Rise of asylums, often overcrowded and insane. Things changed from the Middle Age to 17th, 18th century. With the beginning of the 19th century, shift towards a moral treatment in asylums, compassion, routine, therapeutic environment, leading to the community-based care, often inadequately funded. Thankfully, we have moved forward to the human approaches, though the journey has been long and uneven. During the 20th century, the past decades brought a major shift in psychotherapy, medications, and moved forward to community care. Pharmacological revolution, first antipsychotics, for example, chlorpromazine, allowed symptoms management outside the institution. Psychotherapy, from Freud's psychoanalysis to modern CBT, DBT, and trauma-informed therapies. Community-based care, CBT, more emphasis on the community-based care and reducing the stigma. It was meant to replace the SLMs, but it never got enough money or support, always underfunded. But even as the treatment improved, funding and access did not always keep up.
Sorry, I went
Next
ahead
slide.
of you. Yeah, good.
Yeah. Next slide. Feels better now. Early screening, diagnosis, and evidence-based treatment. Today, mental health care is more holistic. It's not about the medication or just the therapy, but it's about the diet, sleep, support, peer support, family support, healthy diet, culturally safe care, exercise. Overall emphasis on the holistic and culturally safe care. Next slide, please. These are the few of some resources out there. So if you know someone who is struggling with the mental health, so you can Google search or you can cite one of the resources.
Excellent. Is there any? Oh, and
Sorry.
okay, sorry. Yeah, go ahead. I see where we are. Go ahead. Do you want me to stay with resources or move on to the next one?
Move on to the next.
Okay, go ahead. The changing face of mental health. That's very important. Yeah. Yeah.
You have seen in the previous slides, like from the earlier ancient times, it was a more like cruelty, and now it's changing the face of the mental health. How treatment was changed, starting with the institutional era when the people were often locked away rather than the help. But we still have to do, except it's not equal and stigma still exists, but it's a different. In the past,
would you like me to help you and read a little bit of the points here? Because I actually like to read it because I find the information so interesting. But,
please, sir.
Okay, go. So, and also because I just want to help, particularly Avi Rose, to leave with a balanced view of human progress. Okay, we're seeing progress here. Okay, but I know how depressing history can be, Avi Rose, but it doesn't have to be. There's a lot there that's good too. In the past, mental illness was often misunderstood, and people were placed in large institutions instead of receiving helpful treatment. Early neurological treatments, such as lobotomies and other unsafe brain surgeries, were invasive, risky, and caused serious side effects because medical understanding was limited. Institutions in Canada and elsewhere became overcrowded and offered little real therapy, leading to poor quality of life for many patients. These early treatments focus more on controlling behavior rather than improving mental health. Excellent point. Controlling behavior. So there wasn't an attempt to understand what's going on here and let's help this person, but actually let's just control them, and that's it. Wow, that's cold. Present treatment, neurosurgery, and Canadian mental health evolution. Today, mental health care is based on scientific research, and people have access to therapy, medication, and community support instead of long-term institutionalization. Modern neurosurgical treatments such as deep brain stimulation are far safer and more precise and are used only for severe cases that do not respond to other treatments. Canada now focuses on community-based mental health services that help people live more independently and with better support. Even with progress, gaps still exist in services, and some people do not receive enough care. Well, why don't you give us the conclusion, okay? Shamim, go ahead.
Sure. As we are moving forward, let's remember that mental health is not just an individual responsibility. It's all of us. It's a collective care. Mental health is a journey through the history, through pain, towards healing. It's a personal, political, and deeply human. I'm going to read my slide. Conclusion. Over centuries, understanding of mental illness shifted from superstition and social control towards the medical, neurological, and psychological models. The rise of the modern neurosurgical and neuromodulation technique offer a new hope for the treatment resistance disorders. But these are careful, last resort options rather than the first line cures.
And there are the references. Excellent. Well, let's give Shamim a good hand for this, okay? both Roxalana's case and Shamim, is it okay if I post PDF of the PowerPoint in the class folder as well for the others? Because there's a lot of great information. Okay, so let's talk about this, and then we're going to more or less conclude, okay, the class and the semester. I can't think of a better way to conclude again than having a presentation on something that, historically speaking, nobody wanted to deal with. Now, here we are. What's the big deal? Hey, who wants to say something? Avery Rose, go ahead. Yeah.
I'll try not to be pessimistic this time. But yeah.
Okay, let's see.
But just I am not a pessimistic person. So
But it's natural to be when you look at history
but
sometimes, Avery Rose.
anyway, I
Go ahead.
find this topic really interesting that you chose it, and I like Shamim, the coverage that you had, especially with the history. Like, it's incredible to see how far we've come from how it all started. It's scary how it used to be, but nowadays it's well. Let's just say it's nice to see the amount of progress we've made and the resources now available, the more community-based strategies. Like it just adds to, I guess you could say, the slow sunrise.
Slow sunrise.
Right, but
Slow
also,
sunrise.
just as a side note, when you're going through the history, it reminded me of a figure that was spoken about in an episode of a history show that I like, Mysteries at the Museum.
Yes.
And the figure is named as Nellie Bly. I don't know if any of you know of her, but she's an American reporter from the 19th century. And I believe I'm checking the facts here on
Yeah,
my
yeah.
computer just so I got this right. But I believe it was in 1887, but late 19th century. She, to prove her medal as a reporter, I guess you could
Yes.
say, she went undercover at Blackwell's Island Asylum,
Oh,
and
God.
and the paper she wrote after being
Yeah, I heard about that.
her expose. I believe Google says it's called 10 Days in a Madhouse, I believe. It exposes just the cruel conditions of asylums back then, like the living conditions, the food, the staff and treatment, everything. And she really made a difference. And I don't quote me on it, but I believe after her expose came out, there was a serious investigation, and Blackwell Island was shut down. But she
It's very
she really woke people up as to how things were, and people were horrified that this was happening. I don't know specifically. I'd have to go do more searching.
It makes
but
absolute sense, given I've heard of this, but it's consistent. I will give you one example of something that you all know about that is a living example of what you've just said. That's Shamim thanking us. I want to leave you with something very real and something you can experience for yourself anytime. How many of you know the corner in downtown Toronto of Queen Street West and Ossington? How many of you know Ossington Street, which is a cool street in Toronto, lots of restaurants and everything? Okay. You go all the way down to Ossington and it ends at Queen Street. Now, do you know what used to be there at Queen Street right there? So one of the most open spaces and popular spaces in Toronto right now is Ossington Street, and you go down, you walk along Queen, and you see as you walk along Queen this open space, and it's Canadian Mental Health Center. In fact, the buildings there used to all be behind a big wall. It's called 99 Queen Street or 999 Queen Street West. And, back in the 1940s and 1950s and 1960s, 70s, nobody wanted to walk down to that place where there's a big wall going all the way along Queen Street, and behind there are all the crazy people. Yeah. And then eventually, as things have been changing, the Toronto City Council decided, well, let's remove the wall, but we'll keep the buildings. Let's put a walkway in there and put a Starbucks there, and put some other stores, and let's integrate this mental health center into the city. Let's not tear anything down except the walls. Let's make this a place where people come, and yeah, they're going to see people who are patients in the mental health center, in the open park area around the center, and sometimes they go into Starbucks or Tim's or whatever, and there've been problems, but they're being dealt with. Just the way the Toronto Public Library system deals with all the homeless people, mentally ill people who come in. They don't throw them out. They give them a chance. They work with them. They integrate them. They integrate them into society. Now, the next time you're at the corner of Ossington and Queen Street, just look at that corner and look at Queen Street South, and you'll see all those buildings, and there ain't a wall there anymore. That, to me, is something's going on. The sunrise is happening just a little bit. Yeah. Well, it used to be the Queen Street Mental Asylum, just like Avery Rose is describing it, Blackwell's or whatever in the United States. We had our own cold institution where you just threw all the crazy people. Yes. It's the Canadian Mental Health, CMH, Canadian Mental Health, CAMH, Canadian Association of Mental Health Center. Well, it's true. You can experience it for yourself. Just go there and see. So I think we should start wrapping things up, but let's cover this as best you want. I'm happy to stay till the end, but it'd be nice if you all leave early. You probably would like that. Do you have any exams?
Question for Shamim.
Shamim, good. Kevin has a question for you, Shamim. Go ahead.
Yeah, sure.
You spoke about the colonization of Indigenous Canadians. Did you find in your research discussions on whether or not to call that event a genocide?
I would say it is genocide. It is. Like, you kill so many kids in the name of the residential school, in the name of the discipline. How could you do that? They were starving because they were not getting the food, like whatever they used to eat. All of suddenly, like, you change your diet, your habits and everything. So it's inhuman, and you kill so many people together. And it came out like in a few years ago, like 2023 something came up while they were digging in the like British Columbia. And yeah.
Kevin, I might add to that, just to help make a distinction, just to be clear. These are all terrible events. However, if you look at the kind of genocide, that was orchestrated in Ukraine or in Germany during the war, you will see a deliberate planning done to exterminate people, like literally murder them. In Canada's case, it was, yes, it was a cultural genocide, but I don't believe that we actually had politicians who sat around a table, as you saw at the Wannsee conference, for example, and went, well, how do we kill them? Just get rid of them.
Yeah, the goal wasn't.
I don't think we did
goal
that
wasn't to kill
that
them.
extent,
It was
but,
specifically to integrate them into Christian Canadian society.
Yeah, and which is it's cultural
Yeah,
genocide, if you will.
We covered this in a gen ed class.
Did you? Okay.
Humanities In not at this school, but when I was in Humber, like 8 years ago. The stated goal of the Canadian government when creating residential schools
Yes.
was, quote, to kill the Indian in the child, end quote, to assimilate them into Christian Canadian society,
That makes sense.
this is not my opinion, to raise them up into being productive citizens. This is not my opinion.
But it's a great conversation to have at some point. If I wish we could have it, but it's got a lot in there that we need to unpack. But
Professor,
go ahead, Shamim. Yes.
I want to share something. You might not know, like all of the classmate. I had a like assignment regarding the modest proposal, and from the title, I thought it's a modest means like something nice proposal. So when I started going through this essay, it was a like resemble to like Roxelana shared like 10 million people died of the famine. So it was same like that, and at that in the Ireland. So Irish people, they were struggling with the like poverty, famine, and so this Jonathan Swift, he suggested a modest proposal, like why don't you sell your child and make a dishes out of that? It will be a kind of innovative dishes, and people will be attracted, and you will get the good money. So it was so terrible when you go through this. Yeah, that's it.
Well, Kevin, you want to say, and then we'll conclude because I have a thought
I
for.
don't have anything to say to that.
I
Sorry.
I do think as you walk out of here today that you have a choice of how you view what you've witnessed today with Roxalana's presentation and Shamim's and the comments that you've had. If you are already predisposed, if you will, to depression and darkness, you might see hopelessness for humanity. But I think something different, maybe because I'm a bit of a half glass full person. There are human rights, there is respect for humanity, and you have it all within you to go forwards and make the right choices in your lives to ensure that there will be something better. We all have that power. Remember awakening to power? That was something that students have written their final assignment on. Some of them have chosen to write about that in more detail. And that is about awakening to the power in you, your own moral conscience, your own way of understanding, and that's you. And in you, you have a conscience. And that is exactly what Abraham did when he decided to leave his city state and seek a better place. So you have it. Don't ever let anyone try to take away that moral conscience of yours. And if they try, fight like crazy to hold on to it because it's your beating heart, your own moral conscience. You know what's right. Anyways, thank you all for coming in. Those who are here today in person will get a little bit of a bonus in their final grade, just a tiny, maybe mark or two. Don't expect anything major. You are getting your 10% for the final assignment if you got it in yesterday or earlier. And if any of you haven't delivered your final assignment yet, I'm looking forward to seeing them tonight by 11:59. And is there anything else anyone would like to say before we conclude?
I think one best way to describe history is if you're going to look back in history, prepare to weep tears. But if you want to look to the future, those tears should be. Frick,
Go on, finish it. Okay, it's okay. We'll let you get away. What do you want to say? Weep tears, but then what do we do with the tears as we go into the future?
To look back in history is you prepare to shed tears. To look to the future is you want to see those tears shine because you want to see the future in a better place than you've seen what history has revealed.
Can you write that on put that on the board, okay? So you're saying just let the tears let the tears shine or glisten, but don't wipe them away. Is that what you're saying? Don't be afraid of the tears. Just let the tears shine. Now we have a profound insight. Don't be afraid of the tears, but walk forwards and let them shine. Whoa. Oh, let him put that there. Anyways, thank you again. I'm here if you need. You want to talk one-on-one? I'm here till about 2:00 or so. And with that, I'm going to make sure that all of sign your name to that, okay? And here we have a demonstration. Let's go for all of those. I'll get fancy here with the camera. This is me. trying to do a little razzle-dazzle. And for those of you who have watched this recording all the way to the end, you want to see real education? There it is. That is a student writing wisdom for all of us. However, I'm not sure many of you have made it to the end, but anyways, you're all here. You can witness that. Beautiful. Okay. Okay. So I'll bring the camera back, and we have everything here. I'm going to post the PowerPoints in the folder for those of you watching asynchronously. There is no discussion post, of course, today because next week final grades have to be submitted. There's no class. Semester's over. I've given everyone a 5 out of 5 for discussion post 14. So you may see that already. That's why it's there. Good luck with your exams or whatever. Are you all done? Yeah? Oh, really? Go enjoy the day. Yeah. And let the tears shine. Beautiful. Okay. See you. See you in another class, guys. Okay. Let me stop this and stop the live stream. No, we don't want to.